What's up, everybody? Big crowd in here today.
Well,
Jack.
go ahead.
Jack, look, first question here. As a man who earned his bones here in Australia on the local scene, is it surreal for you to be sitting here, UFC 293 in Sydney on a really huge card here in Australia? What does it feel like for you?
Just gratification, you spend such a long time on the local scene, like you said, earning your bones, and the stars kind of have to align. I know a lot of guys who probably had the talent to get here and even the wherewithal, but got injured or timing was just wrong for them or something like that. So there's an element where I'm just, stoked to be here and happy that I get the chance to do it. But then there's a secondary part where I did the work and I never wanted to just get here and take part, as Connor would say. I wanted to get here and really leave my mark. And I think after this fight, that's going to be pretty clear.
Your opponent that you're fighting on this weekend, I believe he was on the same card as you in Jacksonville, right? Did you have any sort of interaction with him? Did you watch his fight, and what did you make of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was only one other guy in my warm-up room before the fight, and it was Chepe. So we were hitting pads next to each other for the last fight. Wished him well for his fight, and then after the fight, I saw him in the lobby and just went up and congratulated him, and I said I thought he probably deserved the fight of the night bonus. So yeah, it was very cordial, and I've seen him this week. We're more than happy to shake hands and say hello.
You also called out Nate Landwehr after your fight, and then you got matched up, and you didn't get Nate, and you instead you got someone that you seem to have. You're like you said, cordial with each other. So did you like this matchup when they presented him to you?
Yeah, well, I think you try and put yourself in the matchmaker's shoes and see what kind of path they're taking me on in terms of building me up as an asset for the company. And I think the Jamal fight, they put that one in front of me as a test because I was really pushing to get on in America. They were like, I think the UFC were probably keen to have me wait to put less risk that I was going to miss this card. And I was really keen on getting over and getting another fight in this year. So they went, all right, here's Jamal, a guy just coming off a win against a Russian who was 26-0 and touted as the next big thing at featherweight. So when I went out there and took the win, I think they sort of went, all right, we've got something to work with here. So they're putting in a fight that's going to be action because I'm not going to have to take the fight to Chepe. He's going to bring it to me. So.
And obviously, it was a close fight against Jamal in Jacksonville. Was this a quick turnaround for you in terms of it wasn't a quick finish for you? You had a 15-minute fight and then another quick turnaround.
Yeah, definitely a quick turnaround, but quick turnarounds have their positives and negatives. As a positive, you don't have to get fit. You're already fit, so you just have to maintain and sharpen things up. You have bumps and bruises, but you deal with them. You're always going to come into fights feeling like you've got a few niggles.
And last one for me, on your Instagram, when you posted the graphic of your matchup, you captured it, "Chip on my shoulder." Was that just because you wanted to finish last time? You want to kind of get another finish as opposed to the decision last time, or what exactly does that chip come from?
Yeah, I've always had that chip on my shoulder. I used to, when I was on the local scene here, I used to work at a pub, and when somebody would say, "Oh, Jack fights" or whatever, you would have guys come up and they'd be like, "Oh, really? You'll never beat the Brazilians, or you'll never beat the Yanks. You'll never amount to that." So I've had a chip on my shoulder since the start, but then for this one especially, I think people underrate Jamal Emmers significantly, and they don't see the value in that win, or they think that I might have lost, which, I can't argue with that. People will score the fight how they'll score the fight, but the chip on my shoulder just comes from the fact that I'm here to get to the top 10 as quick as I can, and I'm going to prove that on Sunday.
Jack, over here. You mentioned it just before, your last fight, you got that opportunity to fight overseas. How was it fighting overseas as compared to the Australian crowd?
Look, I haven't had great experiences as of yet, both Contender Series and Jacksonville. Both times I had my visa on less than 2 weeks' notice. So just physiologically, it's really hard to adapt to the time and the climate and all that sort of stuff in 6 or 7 days when you get over there. So for me, it's just about the next time I go over there, getting the 2 or 3 weeks, because I've got a 2-year visa now for the US. So hopefully after this one, I'll get back to the US again, and I'll have 2 or 3 weeks there where I can really adjust to the time, and then I'll give you a better assessment of how I like it over there.
You're no stranger to fighting in Australia, obviously coming up through the Australian scene, but to be fighting on the biggest stage in your home country, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's huge for me. I've got a heap of people coming up from Melbourne, just as I did when they come out from Perth, and a lot of people in Sydney. And I think now that I've had a couple of fights, I'm starting to get a little bit of name recognition on the cards, and people are excited about watching me fight. And that just G's me up. I'm just more excited to be here.
And real quick, finally from me, you're a teammate of yours is meant to be fighting later this week on Eternal, but that fight's fallen through. Can you tell us anything about that?
About why the fight fell through?
If you can. If you can't, I understand.
Look, a multitude of factors, but the main one being miscommunication, I believe.
Thank you very much.
Jack, originally you called out Nate Landwehr for this card. With a win on Sunday, do you feel like you would have earned that shot against Nate next?
No, I don't think there's much merit in earning a shot or not earning a shot and thinking about it in those terms. For me, that was the fight that came to me at the time. You're only as good as your last fight, and you're only ever going to be as good as how much you focus on the fight in front of you. So for me, I haven't thought a minute past Chepe in terms of opponents or anything like that. So we'll have a chat again on Sunday after the fight, and then we can talk.
Just one more. Obviously, you're training out of Absolute MMA, which is producing a plethora of talent coming through. I'd just like to give you the opportunity to let these guys know. Obviously, people like Lisa Kiriakou and Khan Offley and Joseph Luciano, those type of guys. If you can just speak to Absolute MMA and what you guys are doing in the sport.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got a really good team, and we've produced like some very high level jiu-jitsu athletes in Craig Jones and Lockie Giles, and now our MMA team's starting to come through with me at the front, and Joey and Khan. I was really disappointed that Joey and Khan didn't get shots on Contender Series this year, being Khan 11-2 and Joey 8-1 as a welterweight. But I think those are two guys who their time will come, hopefully in the next 12 months. And then underneath them, we just got an army of guys like Sem Kikembo. He just lost a razor close split decision for a national title last weekend. He's going to come through. Lisa will get her shot. She's just got a few tidy up the edges on a few things when it comes to finishing fights. But yeah, I'm really happy with our team. But outside of talent, the thing I'm most happy about with our team is culture. We really support each other, and it's less about how good you are as a fighter and more about how good you are as a person.
Jack, do you feel a performance this weekend where you can display your skill sets in all areas of the game? Do you think even a performance like that would silence any doubters that are out there? Or do you think that doubters are just going to be part and parcel of your career as you move up the ranks?
Yeah, people are always going to doubt you. I'm not really fussed about it though. Yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about after this fight, I don't care what they're saying as long as people are talking about me, whether people are saying he belongs in the top 15 or whatever, as long as they're talking about the performance, then I'll be happy.
Check one more over here. Obviously, before your last fight with Jamal, you were known for your leg kick finishes. So do you think Jamal plans, there's always when one guy wins one specific way for so long, eventually they'll hit a wall where your opponent's going to game plan around this. So moving forward, do you think Jamal, I don't want to say lay the blueprint, but they're going to watch him and be like, well, he didn't get finished with leg kicks. Maybe we got to implement some with him.
Yeah, definitely. There's no, especially once you get to the UFC, it's murderer's row. Everyone in the UFC is so good. Jamal is a little bit of an outlier. I think his fight IQ is really high. So he fought, if you go back and watch that fight, it was essentially 3 different 5-minute fights. So the Jamal that came out in round 2 was different than round 1, and the Jamal that came out in round 3 was different to round 2. So every time I'd adjusted and started to get the range right, he did a really good job of taking that away from me. So yeah, I think people are definitely going to check the leg kick, but I don't think the leg kick's in my top 3 weapons. I think I've got other weapons. It's just that people have stood there and given me the ability to kick it, so I'm going to kick it.
Jack, another one from me. When you got signed through the Contender Series, a name you kind of embraced, Dana referred to as a one-trick pony, and then earlier just now you've talked about what the company kind of wants for you and how they are looking at you. Do you feel your standing in the UFC on the roster has gone up?
Yeah, well, when you come in and you have 2 wins, you're definitely going to go up as opposed to having 2 losses or going 1-1. So, they're putting me on pay-per-views. They're sending film crews down to follow me for a week at a time to get footage and that sort of stuff. So they obviously see something in me. I'm just trying to keep my head down through that and stick to doing what it was that got me in the position to be here.
Thank you.
I just wanted your thoughts on how you feel the main event's going to go down.
Main event, I think probably a round 2 KO for Izzy. I think he'll get the range, and once he starts fighting, do you watch the Stu Dare fight? Izzy versus Stu Dare. It was his last fight before he got in the UFC. I think it's going to be really quite similar to that fight. So if any fans want to have a look, go and watch X Fight Series Adesanya versus Stu Dare, and I think it's going to be a finish very similar to that. You guys are quiet over on the right here.
Speaking of fans, have you, with your success in the UFC, have you brought on Ben Pete as your researcher yet?
Nah, not Ben P. He gives me a little note before fights and sort of tells me what his thoughts on each fight are. I actually just had this conversation where somebody asked me, what's going to happen for a fight if Ben P messages you and he disagrees with your game plan? Because I said most of the time now he'll message me and he'll go, I think you should do this, or he does this poorly. And I go, yeah, that's what I've seen, or that's what my coaches have seen. Whereas if he messages me and goes, oh, I think you should grapple, and my plan has been to strike, it's going to be quite a moral position for me to be in. I'll be like, oh, do I go with Ben P or go with my gut on this one? But we've agreed so far, so that's been good.
Has he reached out for this fight?
Yep.
I imagine you don't want to give away your secrets before the fight.
Ben P, for this one, he pretty much said, you're better than him everywhere. Avoid the car crash in the first 30 seconds to a minute and then pick him apart on the outside.
Can't wait to watch it unfold. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thanks, guys.